Welcome to Beyond the Break, a podcast where we dive deep into the stories behind today's entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers, and we uncover what it takes to build something that lasts. Let's get started. Beyond the Break.
All right, you ready for this?
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
All right, Amy Pope Latham, welcome to Beyond the Break. You know, a lot of recently we had a physical therapist in talking about the physical side of athletes, but today we have you as a guest, and I really can't wait to talk with you more about the mental side of things. So if you give us a little bit of background of your training and what world you work within.
For sure. I mean, it's so exciting to be here. Love the office digs. This is awesome.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So LCSW, we say with short. As a licensed clinical social worker, what I get to do in private practice is, I have the privilege and opportunity of meeting with people on individual levels, sometimes in the group environment, but also, provide a lot of education. I get to really be everywhere at anywhere and not really feel tied down by anything, meaning...
So you're working with companies or individuals within an organization?
All the above. In other words,
okay.
that's, social work to me is, it's not just, hey, I'm going to talk to you in the social aspect of it. It's like, no, we can be anywhere and everywhere and have an impact. And that's what, for me, makes this job feel so rewarding is because, again, I'm not just restricted to just sitting in my office and talking face to face. There are people I meet with on Zoom, I consult with across the globe, and it's just so refreshing that being able to offer education, clinical support, therapy, coaching, even just a bit of mentoring goes a long way. Yeah.
And you work with the Olympic teams as well?
Yes, yes.
In any specific sport?
Basically, it's Team USA. We have the U.S. Olympic Paralympic Committees that, as part of their referral network, my name is listed on there as preferred provider. So, in the event that athletes need the support, they coach, even the support staff can go on this directory and look for providers in the area. And very fortunate to be one here located conveniently next to, we have PGA, we have Bulls, and we're very lucky here in Florida, at least in Northeast Florida too, where we have a lot of athletes who go Team USA, have either driven up from UF, and et cetera, and get to touch base and connect with them and give them as much support or as little support as they need. So
are these people in crisis or just looking to better themselves from a competitive standpoint?
Both, truly.
Okay.
Yeah, which is exciting. It's almost like being I won't speak out of bounds of, my profession, but I'll say it's kind of similar to being, in triage, like an ER doctor, not a doctor, but in the ER world, they're going to take in whoever the ambulance is bringing into them, and they will treat them as such.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So let's go back to your background.
Sure.
So where did you grow up? What led you down this path?
Well, what I like to say is that, the best things in life are not from the plans, but from the detours.
Okay.
And
no, I love that.
That's
beautiful.
And the greatest detour that I've had was from Hurricane Sandy. And, the way that it brought me to this profession is really from growing up on Long Island in Long Beach, New York. And I attended Stony Brook and was very happy to be there in my senior year of college. Everything was lining up for graduation. And I was completing my studies in psychology, sociology, which I graduated with both, had major and minor in psychology and minor in sociology. And Hurricane Sandy came. I remember going surfing, having the best day. The year before that, I believe it was Hurricane Irene. And I remembered at that point, I left home right there in Long Beach because everyone's like, okay, it's about to be a really bad flood. So I go out to Stony Brook, and it turns out we lost power for about a week and a half, but Long Beach was unscathed.
Oh, okay.
So that year of 2012, I stayed behind. It wasn't in that state, it wasn't something that we all were worried about because we'd been through hurricanes before. We didn't anticipate that this was going to be the major storm that it was.
Oh, yeah.
And so in the wild, I think back to it now, just being all relaxed and cool, calm, collected, we just got our snacks, our water, just kind of hanging out. And that's when things went sideways.
So you were in your house in Long Beach?
Yes. So I stayed at home with my parents, and I had a cousin of mine. She was attending Hofstra University, another nice sports program up there. And, there's something to be said that, when we're all hanging out, just kind of like waiting for the storm to pass, the moment a crisis kicks in, it's amazing how just things changed, like in that instant.
So what was the crisis that happened?
The water started coming in the house.
Water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were upstairs. I'll never forget watching, just again, television. I turned my phone off. I knew it was a hurricane. Said to my friends, I said, love you guys. I'll see you on the other side. Hang 10. Literally, I was like, hey, starts up. And turned off my phone. I figured it was a storm. Something in me said, I'm not going to reach out to anyone during a storm. Just hang out. And in the event that we lose power. And we were sitting, just kind of gathered around, family just kind of waiting as it passed. And all of a sudden you hear a hissing sound. And that's when water started to come up from the baseboards.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
And in that moment, something clicked in me, and I was like, we got to run downstairs. So family and I went down there, and as water was very rapidly flooding, because we had a 2-story home, very rapidly flooding the whole area, my mom was proceeding to try to pull out the electrical outlets of the lamps, and she got zapped. That was pleasant. And, in those moments, I say that very calmly. I would tell you this. I was an ocean lifeguard for many years. First trained in first aid, EMT. So for me, seeing crises like this was not going to shake me.
Okay.
It was more of like, okay, let's make sure she's okay. And proceeded to bring her upstairs and just try to help her, make sure she was all right, make sure there was no burns that were going to be really dangerous to her skin and her body, make sure she was safe. And then went back downstairs. But it put a headlight on, and on the snow. It's funny because I'm short, but in the Seven Dwarfs, when they look in the mines, they have the headlamp. Yeah, I put that on. I was like, somebody was like, let's just go. I'm going to put this on just in case. And it was just me and my dad at that point, and the water was coming up about this high. I'm 5'1", so it kept kind of pretty fast. And mind you, we were way back in the house.
So why are you on the first floor to begin with at this point?
I'm glad you asked. My dad is a very nostalgic individual, historian, history buff, which is where I get a lot of my love for history from. And he has these invaluable relics that he's collected over the years from World War II, World War I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and not just family heirlooms, but
so you're trying to collect all the goods, bring it up to the second
medals,
floor.
yes, things that were, they still are invaluable pieces of history and have tremendous meaning. And he was also an avid toy collector, so very old school toys from the 1920s and 30s, and they meant a lot to him, as much as I had some of my stuff down there too. Mm-hmm. So he's like, can you please come down and help? So of course, we go down there, water's filling up, and I'm like retrieving it. And similar to in the Titanic, when the lights were flickering before the ship lost power, that was a moment. Yeah. And when you're so far back in that house, I remember being there with my dad. And I'll tell you this, a lot of people when I work in the topic of grief, for example, how a lot of people say how scared they are of grief and dying. And I could tell you from that experience, in the 30 seconds that I felt we had, which felt like an eternity of seeing the lights flicker, you really do see your whole life flash before your eyes, but it was the most peaceful I've ever felt in my whole life.
Really?
Yes. Feeling like that was the end.
Thinking it's going to be over.
Yes.
And you were peaceful.
Yes. Mostly because, my dad's a very strong Italian man, and, think about the last name Pope, and he had a sound of defeat. And I took that as a signal. I was like, uh-oh. If that man said that, this is not good.
Yeah.
He was my lighthouse. And so, in those 30 seconds, just seeing the lights flicker, it was the most peaceful, calm surrender I've ever had. And
that's powerful.
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was very, I just remember seeing a light flickering in our hallway, and you have one of the chandeliers. And at that point, just accepting whatever fate was in front of you, and it was just surreal. And just as calm as it felt, the lights went out. And I said, wait a second, we're here. Uh-huh. We're here. Yeah. Wait, what? And then we got back to work. And we continued throughout the night, freezing cold water in the dark with the headlamp on, bringing things up. I'll fast forward, because for the next few days, we continued to be without power. We had no way of knowing what was going on in the outside world. We had no idea. I mean, the first thing I did the next day was go check on my friends in the neighborhood. There were houses that burnt down. There were times during the evening of the storm that I remember calling 911, and they said, we can't help you, because there was a power explosion from a power plant across an island park. So you could see it, because Long Beach is very small barrier island. Okay. And so, they had this recycling plant, and you could see this neon, almost like neon green light like this. I'm like, are the aliens invading? What is going on? Like, trying to find humor. And no, something blew up. So the next day, making sure everyone was okay, we kind of just survived. And it was the most quiet, peaceful, the stars.
And everybody's together helping each other, right?
Well, I will share that my parents were very catatonic, in shock.
Oh, okay.
In shock. It hadn't quite hit me at that point, and they were just trying to grieve, but also figure out what the heck just happened.
Sure.
Because we had no way of knowing. And then on the 4th, 5th day, we saw sewage coming up, and it was just good, perfect. I mean, fate has a funny way of showing up always, but I heard an airplane at around 5 a.m., 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was like, oh, first time we'd heard that in days.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
'cause the airports
Yes.
were shut down.
Well, there was no way of knowing what was going on. Yeah, and usually, because Long Beach too is, we always get these beautiful planes that fly over us because JFK is conveniently, I think, like 25 minutes away.
Okay.
So we're pretty close. So yeah, hearing that, I was like, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to turn my phone on. And literally in the hallway in my house, like really cramped like this, turned my phone on, and there was a red dot. I can only call a landline. Called my relatives in Massachusetts, and we got the hell out of there.
Oh, okay.
A couple hours later, of course, they
Yes,
had to
yeah.
drive down. But the reason why I share that with you is because, the days that followed that, I was in Massachusetts for several weeks trying to figure out things, helping my parents. My dad stayed at home because, the community was raw. I mean, there was no one there, kind of lawless in certain areas of town, and he felt the obligation to stay,
Oh, okay.
which was really hard. Yeah. So securing, this is where I kicked in. I'm like, I didn't know I was doing social work, and here I was, having to call insurance companies, having to figure out rental cars, because there was nothing up there at the time.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Everything was wiped out. And
Yeah.
so getting that secured, and still emailing my professors, still letting them know, like, okay, this just happened, trying to find the words. And they were so graceful. They gave me a chance to kind of continue again, submit my papers, no discipline for, being late by a week. Granted, what happened,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And long and short is that every weekend, so once I did get back to Stony Brook, I was in a rental vehicle, eating out food pantries. My professors were so incredible. They were showing kindness in ways I've never seen. So they would say, hey, you come, and they would bring me a bag, and it'd be full of supplies. And with those supplies of clothing, food, toys, the first thing I would always do is bring it back home. And you weren't allowed to go into Long Beach without your license. You had to
Okay,
show
yeah.
ID,
Sure.
right?
For
And
residents only.
The first thing, I'd always grab my dad, his coffee because he was home, his Sprites, food, but I would immediately go back to the community. And this repeated itself as I was trying to finish out the year.
Okay.
And this was again
So you're
October,
bringing
November.
resources to the community now
Every
at
week.
this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Every week, and including my mom, like trying to make sure that they were all taken care of in addition to the people that stayed.
Sure. Sure.
And while also trying to finish out my senior year.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
lot to juggle.
It was.
As a young person, you're 21, 22
Yeah, I was a
years
baby,
old.
yeah. And, and again, psychology is not just, we're going to talk about what happened in history of like the brain and the mind. No, we had to write a lot of papers, do a lot of examinations, and it was a lot of work to take on while also considerably like having to put everything aside, be normal, show up for my family, show that I'm okay, because they were also very worried. I mean, just coming back and forth.
Yeah.
But I loved every moment of it. And the funny part is, as I was trying to figure out where I could stay, my friends who were a big part of the rugby group I was very good friends with, they said, what are you doing? Come stay with us. So I went right back to college, basically.
Sure.
And the student admin, they found out what was going on, and Student Life, they were incredible. They came out to my home. They were making sure that my family was okay.
Oh, it's
Offered
great
to
to have
help.
that support
Yes.
from the university.
Yes. And I found out later that one of the individuals, she and I, her name was Ellen Driscoll, she was a social worker too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it just blew my mind because, seeing that kind of, again, support, concern, but genuine, like, here, we're gonna roll our sleeves up and help, was the most inspiring acts of kindness I've ever seen.
So is this now you're putting together maybe your profession or your life's work, do you think?
I know. I really didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
At this point, like I said, my plans at that point were to graduate and pursue medical school. Like, I
Okay.
really wanted to help people in the medical field, partly because, again, in lifeguard land, seeing things, like I'm not grossed out by blood. If someone got a little scrape, I was like, ooh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Where some people would faint, right? So,
Sure.
being a first responder always excited me. So I figured that was where the journey was going to take me.
Yeah.
But no, life had different plans. And that's why, again, it was the best detour of my life. So no, I had no idea until towards graduation. I had received an email, and it was from Student Government. And they said, Student Life, excuse me. And they said, we would like to honor you. President Stanley at the time, he's no longer president of Stony Brook, would like to honor you as well as other students who have been impacted by the storm Would you mind? Would you be okay with that?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. That's great that they thought of that.
Yeah. They said they were able to see that efforts that I was making, despite, yes, trying to finish out school, were something to be, honored and at least just recognized.
Sure.
And which is really refreshing because a lot of times, we don't give credit to people who are helping.
No.
Right. So for me, I was
that's so important. Our whole society is that people help each other, not just to be singular and just focused on yourself.
Right.
And that's what, what drew me to have you on today is because you've dedicated your career to helping others.
Yes.
And in the mental capacity, and some of it is performance-based coaching as well, right? So now, I just want to touch on briefly your background in athletics,
Sure.
right? So just give us your history because it's kind of unique, the three main activities.
Yeah, it's certainly, not traditional. Growing up, I was, first thing I remember besides my shoes were ballet slippers that I was given.
So you started ballet.
That's right. Started ballet is just as I was starting my first steps.
Oh,
and
wow.
Ballet, as well as other traditional forms of dance, but mostly ballet, were heavily a part of my upbringing. And part of what I wanted was beyond dance. I always had a calling for wanting to just do different things. I love sports in themselves. And I remember pleading with my mom, saying, can I just try this? All my friends in school were doing different things. And I was able to participate in basketball in middle school, but it very neither here nor there. In other words, I had to plead that I could go to a tryout, plead that I could go to a game, largely out of preventing any kind of injury. Because largely, dance, you mess up your ankles, you're cooked, right, as teenagers would say now. So yes, I balanced ballet with other sports. But when I say sports, it's a non-traditional one called equestrian, and going all the way
Horseback riding,
yes.
as I might think of it, right?
Giddy up, yes, exactly right, yes.
For lack of a better word.
That was very good, yes.
Yeah.
And so, in the equestrian world, there's the hunting jumping and the dressage. And the jumping is, we imagine you see like in the Olympics where they jump over those, the bars. And I loved that because it was such a unique experience, but a hell of a sport. I mean,
yes.
You have to focus on not only just connecting with the animal, but controlling your breath. I actually think it helped quite a bit with dance, which maybe my mom was why she was so okay with it.
I love the combination, though.
Very much. It's a different kind of dance, if you think about it.
Yeah. So then did you do that in college?
No.
Because I know you're a
collegiate athlete, yes. So
yes.
As I say, in the curveball here is that despite all the sports, the one that I wound up doing it as an NCAA athlete was swimming.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the D1 level.
Yes.
Oh my
so
gosh.
D2 and then bumped up.
D2,
yes. So, it started off in a lifeguard training class where I jumped in and we had to do a 500, which is 20 laps. And I remembered, you could break it up, break up however you want. You just can't break your stroke.
Yeah.
And I remember the teacher, she stopped me and she's like, do you need some help?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm fine. I'm panting out of breath. And I was like, okay, I could swim. I think we all could swim. Yes.
Okay.
And she's like, you go a little more like a drowning victim than you do a lifeguard. But, and maybe you want to take some swim classes to figure this out.
Oh, my.
So
you were not a good swimmer.
No.
Okay.
No. And I was like, okay. Well, you think about this, right? Swimming, unfortunately, is a very preventable death. But unfortunately, a lot of us don't really know how to swim.
Sure. Oh,
and if we could float, that's a win, no doubt. But to swim and the technicality of a swim stroke and being, where it can actually help someone. Because I'm just like slamming the water. I can't go rescue someone. I'm going to be tired.
So you obviously worked your tail off to become swimming in college.
To make the times,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it is just from, again, I have so many people that it come to my mind that without them and their just, ability to give me a chance, I would never have had the opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with all that athletic background, when you're consulting people in crisis, I've read a lot now about different treatments where it's more than just sitting one-on-one, right? There's a lot of benefits to being outdoors, being active. Do you bring that into your practice or your advice?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in Tallahassee, so when I moved as an adult post-grad to Tallahassee, I worked in an agency called Turnabout Inc. And Turnabout is a nonprofit, and where they've now since moved locations, their initial property had this beautiful long driveway. And what that means is that we had a beautiful field of grass. And, it was private, it was nice. But when I worked with a lot of young males, the last thing they wanted to do is to sit like this.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh my God, what does she want? So we got creative. And I said, okay, what about if we throw a football? let's go outside. And with privacy, we were able to throw the ball and talk.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I found that, fresh air and movement are two of the best forms of medicine.
Sure.
Other than just talking. And that in itself, just being such an environment of peace and safety for people, is sometimes some of the best ways to get the ball rolling on healing. And it's just, I love being able to do that now. I do walk and talk.
Yeah.
And then we go on the
really?
beach. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's, even if we're kicking a soccer ball, from throwing a tennis ball, going for a walk and talk, especially since 2020, has made this more, I'd say more acceptable in practice, private practice. You got to get creative to stay outside.
I think that's so important because if you need your patient to be relaxed.
Yes.
But then there's so many healing qualities to being outside versus cooped up, looking at the four walls of your phone or your computer. Right.
Right. Or the weird decorations in my office too.
So that's I think that's so important. Do you prescribe exercise, anything along those lines as well?
Oh, for sure. I say as much as you can, stay active. If you're going to a concert, what a beautiful opportunity to bring an air instrument. If you're not playing, right?
Yeah.
It's like being able to, again, go for a walk, get out of your space, meaning like we're not meant to process things in being static and still. Like we're meant to move.
Sure.
Right? We think about emotion. There's energy in motion. So a lot of the times I say like in therapy or in counseling one-on-one, we're simply just bringing to light the ideas. But where they're going to come to light is how you move with them after.
Okay.
Right? The light bulb moment is going to go off when you're not in my office.
Yeah.
And that's what I look forward to. We're just planting the seeds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, what about the people that are seeking performance excellence, like the athletes that you work with or the executives that you work with? Is there a common denominator amongst those people, if you could generalize?
I think fear of, success, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Fear of success.
Genuine fear of success. Well,
for people that we would think are successful.
Well,
right?
Yes. With success, what is it from Spider-Man? With great success comes great responsibility, or great power comes great responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
It's, when we have that or we achieve these milestones of greatness, then the question is, how do we sustain it?
Sure.
Right? And sometimes we think of we can get to this point and I want to get to this marker. And once I'm here, I'll win and I'll be great. We never really get to it. Why? Because we're going to self-sabotage. Because now if I'm here, I'm going to have to keep fighting my way to stay here.
Sure.
No king wants to be dethroned, at least voluntarily, as they're tired of the job.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I've watched too much Game of Thrones recently. So that's why I'm referencing that. But you think about, in theory, imposter syndrome or fear of permanence, and the idea is like, how are we going to create a legacy? A lot of it's future oriented, not just like the past, because the past is what propels them to the present, which is beautiful. So a lot of it in terms of helping them in the mentorship or coaching fields and capacities, I'm going to say, okay, well, what steps did you get to get here?
Mm-hmm. I see.
We'll honor that. Okay. But now that you have those tools may not be appropriate for this next climb.
Yeah.
So what can you leave behind?
Because, one of the things, I coach a lot of youth lacrosse.
Sure.
And one thing I observe is so many young people have been the best through middle school, through high school. Then they get to college and it's their first time where everybody in the room was the best.
Right.
So how do you advise someone to, now it's their first real adversity, right? They've worked hard.
Right.
They've put in the time, but now mentally they might not be starting for the first time in their lives. How do you deal with that kind of challenging information?
Well, yeah, because they're afraid of failure, right?
Yeah.
In some way, right? If they've always had the doors open and they've had things just always work out, their brain is missing a piece of information from experience that says, or if it's not prioritized in their brain, maybe it's not missing, but it's not going to be the more dominant thought that crosses their mind of like, well, when was the last time I failed at something? Or when was the last time, if I had to make that decision to take that risk, what was I afraid of? Right? Because the brain's going to focus on the win, the green light, the advancement. So in dealing with failure, you got to fail forwards, fail on purpose. So if it means, I need to, give me an example for lacrosse for you. What are some things that you help those young kids with?
I mean, first off, there's just the skills to it. So you try and establish a pattern of what are the best workouts to do on your own. Mm-hmm. And that's, one of the things I see is parents now seem to be so involved in youth sports that the kids might be doing it just because they have to. And really, what I see, the best indicator of success is you have to be, the player has to be obsessed with it. They have to wake up in the morning saying, I want to get better today. I'm going to do these 3 things, not my mom or dad said I need to do wall ball, like throwing and catching against the wall repetitively, or go shoot. Not because they have to, it's because they want to. And that's, I think, the biggest differentiator of successful athletes is the ones that are self-driven versus the ones that are saying, all right, today I must do this. It's on my checklist.
Right.
You know?
Well, no, that's fantastic. I mean, it's that, again, the self-sufficiency, but also the curiosity, right? If they're so fixated on a result, right? So if it's like, okay, I want to be focused on if I'm an attacker, I'm a goalie, I'm going to fixate on having these stats speak for my excellence. I'm going to look at, okay, well, what about stats of where you failed? Show me where you messed up.
Okay.
Show me where you messed up and let's laugh about it. Key is like, it's so, you think about this, right? And the standard interview questions. What are your greatest strengths? What are your weaknesses? Yeah. Why do we all struggle with that answer of like, tell me about your biggest weakness? What's your biggest red flag? Like we're almost, again, as a generalization, afraid to point out what it is we feel like we need to work on. But if we have this ability to say, you know what? I get to work on things. I'm not afraid of having to work on things. That answer or that question, the answer doesn't necessarily, haunt people. Yeah. It becomes easier to answer from the heart.
So you mentioned I get to, right? Yes. Versus I have to. Yes. Is that an important word Very differential?
Much. Oh, yeah. I mean, language of the mind becomes the language of the body. And you think about, like, I have to go get this thing done versus, you know what? Like, I get to worry about this problem.
Sure.
And it's not saying the grass is greener, like I need to feel bad for, myself because other people may have it worse. But situationally, it's not about comparing. The grass is not always greener. Sometimes it's turf.
Yeah.
Which has its own set of issues, right? So it's never just about, looking at your neighbor and saying, well, I shouldn't feel this bad. No. You get to have these struggles because you've clearly done the work prior that I think in many ways pre-qualifies you to have these problems.
What about self-talk? Do you believe in that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, as a business owner, I say if you hear me or see me talking out loud to myself, no need to worry. I'm just having a business meeting.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're an entrepreneur. Yes, that's what you're referring to as well.
Yes, just having a business meeting, just talking out loud.
Yeah.
Because when we keep so much of it in, we can't tell the difference between what's real, what's imagined, what's fear-based, and what's external. Meaning, what are we we think about messages that come from other people. If it's just like an okay in text message. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. See, I'm going to say it out loud like that. Okay, what is that supposed to mean? Yeah. Versus like, what have they said? Okay. I will play with different ways of using language, tone, voice, even accent, just to play around with it. Just, again, trying to highlight to you that when we change something, even so minimally, like an accent of the way we would describe something, like coffee. Oof. Uh-huh. Oh, that hurt.
That's how you grew up.
Oh, that's more of a heavier, like, Manhattan accent. Yes, Long Island, we tend to, like, bring all of our words together, like Long Island.
Yes.
We'll mumble it. I feel like Billy Joel with the piano here. But, the language of the mind, you have these little tiny changes yield bigger results.
Okay. And then the same, we were talking about athletes. What about executives as far as the way you approach them or advise them?
A lot of those dynamics really center on social engagement and social emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. Largely, you think about people or individuals who are in the sales industries. There's, Shakespeare has said, to thy own self be true. Well, how do you manage that in an environment where you're representing a company? But also, you must maintain a level of composure of who you are, because consumers see right through that.
Sure.
So engaging in conversation, understanding language, even communication. It's a lot of like, we're not going to change the person. That's simply just never has interested me to change someone. It's more so we're going to take what you do, bring whatever still is like kind of bringing up a hiccup for you, and clear the gunk. So that way you go out there with a fresh perspective, like going to the dentist, they're, oral hygienist, dental hygienist, she's going to clean out the tartar. And then you go about your merry way.
Yeah.
That's what I typically do in my roles with them.
So a lot of people are, their biggest fear, one of them is public speaking.
Sure.
So do you help address those, types of situations?
Yes.
Okay.
And largely, when you think about public speaking, are you a fan?
I love it.
What lights? I
believe-
love that. I see your face
Yes.
lighting up. Yes. So what lights you up about public speaking?
I love the ability or the opportunity to convey what I believe in to others.
Right.
It's my chance. And that's where, like, to your point, you've got to believe in what you're talking
Yes.
about, first of all.
Yes.
So you've got to work for a company that has products or services that you're going to convey to others how great it is.
Right.
And then I'm constantly learning and trying to improve what I do. And I'm working with my coworkers for the same thing. So we hire outside advisors to come in and work with the team to make us better presenters.
Sure.
And it's a never ending quest for me personally. And I've presented thousands of times. And I still want to look and what do I do better? And sometimes you look at, oh shoot, my opening, someone tells me, when you did your opening, it sounded this way. Well, I'd rather get it right from today going forward, even though I'll be frustrated while I did that opening for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Similarly. So we gotta fix it going forward. So it's not just me, but the whole team has to, continue to get better.
I love that though. I mean, hearing you say that, I think you've heard of rugby, but the New Zealand Blacks. Have you heard of them? The All Blacks.
Yes.
They have their principles and their guidelines that, they instill in their athletes. And one of them is, to leave the jersey better than when you first put it on.
Oh, okay.
Right. And you think about legacy and leadership. And I love hearing that again in your quest for excellence and improvement. Again, it's that inspiring others, leaving a ripple. So that way, yes, whatever will follow after us or we're no longer here, people will remember this because of the impact you've had.
Sure.
Just by inspiring them to learn something different.
Yeah.
That's why we never know who we're impacting, but every little piece does help.
Yeah. I think it's so important. And what about the way that you give people the confidence to get up? Is there any tricks that you could give or advice on that for someone who might be a little concerned about getting on stage or running a meeting in their own firm?
Well, sometimes, that's where we can do a little more exploratory work about where did they feel like they've lost or left their voice behind.
Okay.
Right? You think about
the source of the concern.
Yes,
that's interesting.
Going right to the root of it because, sometimes perhaps it's not so much going in front of the audience, but it's more so if the eyes are on you. They don't mind the eyes, but it's about their voice projecting. Or if they're afraid to speak up about something that if it doesn't land, if it's a bad joke, how do they deal with their embarrassment? Which I'm doing air quotes because it's humor. It's not supposed to be for everyone. So embarrassing for who? I mean, you never know. But granted, yes, when you think about going to the root of something, I like to explore, well, why does your voice feel shaky here? Who is it you're presenting to? Like, what is it about them that you've leveraged as being more important than any other person?
Yeah.
Because, right, when we have something about transference, countertransference. So if we are, seeing someone that or giving a presentation to a group of people that remind us of people that maybe we didn't have a great experience with, we may naturally feel more of those yips. Ooh, bad word in golf. But, we might feel more of those yips. And the idea is to okay, well, let's unpack that specific moment. So if you had a team or a teammate that you had a rough patch with when you were in college or in high school, let's go back there. Let's say as captain, you fumbled your speech.
So now you're breaking down the fear, basically.
Correct.
That's what you're doing. And hopefully removing that.
Working through it.
Instead of just, that's interesting. Instead of just giving a tip or trick to do it better, you're talking about let's eliminate the fear or the concern. I think that's very powerful.
Well, why prolong the issue?
Yep.
Say if, and again, I speak very lightly because, again, it's not to say I'm no way a doctor, but if I had to say comparatively how I like to operate, here I think I may have just gave it away. I like to think of it being more like a surgeon.
Sure. Rather
than saying, here, no disrespect for primary care, love mine, he's wonderful. But, I'm going to go to him and he'll follow up and do these little things here and there if I need to, right? That's the whole why we have our doctors. However, a surgeon's not going to give two shits, excuse the language, about, okay, we'll follow up in a day or two. They say, no, where's the problem? We will find it. Okay, now we've identified it. Let's eliminate it.
Sure.
Right? And but say, a good surgeon will know never, or they know once you open the body, it's never the same, but they also know when not to cut. So that's the idea is when figuring out what someone needs, sometimes it's not, we're going to go to the root of it.
Yeah.
But if need be and we can, let's go. Roll the sleeves.
No.
Yeah.
I think, you just touched on something that is a positive, I believe now that mental health is being addressed more openly, right?
Sure.
It's very different than it doesn't have to be just for someone who's in a problematic situation. So hopefully people can look just to get better in many ways, right?
Yes. And again, mental wellness, mental health, it's everywhere. Thank goodness that we're all talking about it now. But it's not so much about labeling what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's about leaning on each other, right? We're so, connected with people, but we're so under-supported at the same time.
Yes.
Right?
No,
So it's like, here, reach out to me. Go on Know Better Health. I have to edit that one out.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking crap
think
about better health.
Overall, it's a great premise. Is helping
Yes.
others is a lot of what I believe in. Boston College is a
Mhm.
Jesuit institution. That's one of the foundations of it. But helping others and just try and reach out to people. Say, hey, are you okay? Do you need a friend right now? Because when people are feeling lonely, that's a dark moment for them.
Yes. And it's not so much to fix, right?
No, that's a good point.
I think about like when we were out there in the field with those incredible special operators, right, and
Yep.
special forces, magnificent. I mean, just the experience itself is just amazing. But you see the fraternity of how they all come in and they support each other
Sure.
without saying, "Are you good? Are you sure?" It's more of like, "I've got your back. I've got your six."
Yeah.
And sometimes people just need to know that someone else sees that something's off.
Yeah.
Not making it weird, but saying, "Okay, I've got you. We're just gonna. If you need to fall, fall."
Yeah.
Sometimes just knowing that is amazing. Because imagine this, and someone's in crisis and they pick up their phone. I heard this in psychology. We're in a crisis. We're only going to remember about 4 or 5 people's names or numbers, like by heart. Not really that much, right? I mean, can you think of 4 or 5 people, all their phone numbers by heart right now?
No, unfortunately.
Right.
there's-
It's like it's being put on the spot, right?
Yes, yeah.
So imagine that, your heart rate's up, adrenaline's rushing, you're just feeling really stressed, and you automatically just can scroll to your messages and you're like, boom.
Yeah. No,
That's amazing.
I love that. And we'll wrap up with that thought of people helping others and seeking help as
Yes.
well, not
Yeah.
before you need it as well, just to get that support system.
Well, remember what Muhammad Ali said, right? He said, service to others is our rent here on earth. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. No.
Really?
All right. I'm going to put that
Cassius
on the wall.
Clay, yeah. It's one of the most beautiful statements of wisdom that even right now I have goosebumps thinking about that. Because it's true, no matter what we do, you can always be in service to another person. It's not about what we get out of it, but what we can give and leave behind. So that's why I love the fact that we've connected, and I really appreciate your opportunity just to come in and chat.
All
This has been
right.
awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Amy Pope Latham. Thank you for coming in to Beyond the Break.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Break. If this conversation brought you value, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. We've got more real stories, sharp insights, and powerful turning points coming your way. See you next time.